matter what you do, you will need external coverage of your game at some point. So according to the kind of game that you have, these are the things I think you'll need. You will need the previews, announcements. You will need overviews of the campaign, overviews of the game, or even somebody playing a full game. Especially this is especially valid for board games where somebody actually does an actual play of the game and shows how the game is played. You want websites to cover your launch announcement for the campaign. So that they can drive people to the campaign when it matters in the first few hours. If possible, you would want to take part to some podcast interviews, written interviews on websites. Those are not super easy to get, especially if it's your first gig, and when you start to have a few games under the belt, I think it's much more likely that people will say yes to this, because usually it's a bit hard to suggest them, hey, can I come to your podcast? You want them to contact you if you can go to their podcast, but this doesn't happen until you have something that they're really interested into. You need quotes that you can use during the campaign. There's an example here on the slide. Those are very important, especially board games really live or die by those. So you really want the quote of somebody like Rado, for example, which is a very popular content creator. And well, in general, any other coverage you can get, you definitely want it. So how do you contact press? There are a couple of ways. There's a cheap way and a more expensive way. So the cheap way is that you make a list of everyone who could potentially help. In my experience, it's not worth doing it a lot in advance because things change quite quickly. So you might end up having to update email addresses and websites that are active and things like that all the time. So do it fairly close to the campaign. And then get in touch with, like in my experience, the smaller ones are more likely to answer you. The bigger ones, they might answer you, but it's always some kind of sponsored deal with them. So the smaller ones actually need content, so they might be happier to have your stuff. And of course, they might have a different reach, but depending on what you need, if you need quotes, if you need a video, if you need something, they might actually be a much better option for you. And remember that your community can help. In my experience, like my own community has suggested to me to get in touch with some streamers that I did not know about. So they might know the space in a way that you don't. So just ask them once you build this community we already discussed. So the pros of doing it this way is that it saves you a lot of money. The cons is that it's a lot of manual work. You still have to go and check the websites and make sure that they are a good fit for you. Find their email addresses. Sometimes they're not obvious at all. They're hidden somewhere because people don't want to be spammed. And it takes a long time, especially if you have to send them prototypes or demos. And it's really hard to make the schedules match. For example, I can give you an example of my own experience. We've been trying to schedule some streams in accordance to some deadlines that we have, where the game is still available for purchase. And it's not always easy because these people, they don't owe you anything and they have their own schedule. So it might be hard to find a time that works for both parties. It's a different deal when you're paying them and then they will do it according to your needs. One thing I noticed is that if they don't know you, if you have nothing to show, they might not answer you at all. So that is a problem. But I have been on the other side, and I know that you get so many emails of people suggesting, hey, can you cover this or can you cover that, that at some point you have to do a selection. So that is an issue. Yeah, as I mentioned, do not start it too early because this media list will need to be updated from time to time. And if you do it many months in advance, for sure you will have to make changes. What's the expensive way? The expensive way is that you hire somebody to do this job for you. Usually it's a PR firm of some kind. The pros is that if they have a relevant network, you'll get coverage. Now, what is a relevant network here? It's difficult. Like in my experience, the best thing you can do is not even hiring a PR firm, is hiring a person that is in the market. Somebody that has been working, this is true especially for board games. Somebody who has been working with board games, has been covering them, has been working for some publishers. Those people will know who to contact. But it can become expensive very quickly. Some agencies I was looking into will do this job for you in exchange of 12 to 15% of what your campaigns rakes in. And especially if your campaign is successful, this is incredibly expensive. Incredibly expensive for the actual job that they are doing. Even because most of the best deals that will get you, you still need to pay something on top. The bigger channels are not going to do this coverage for free unless they're absolutely crazy about your game. And it might not happen that often. Keep in mind also that if they under-deliver, you still have to pay them. So I've been working with somebody who claimed to have taken care of media campaigns for huge rock bands and things like that. And on paper that was true, but in practice that didn't translate at all into us getting great coverage. So be a bit careful about the promises, because they might actually not be completely relevant. There's something else you can do in person. You can take an active role on forums, on Reddit, on relevant Facebook groups. And just remember that people don't like when you're spammy. So we mentioned this already. If you can get there much earlier, a few months earlier, 1 year earlier, and become an active member of that community, they will be much more likely to listen to you when you have something to spam. However, as you can imagine, this all takes time, and it's really hard to keep up for months and months and months when you have all the other stuff to do. So there's a balance to be stricken there.